Alfa Romeo of Italians Pier Giuseppe Peroni and Luca Maddalena. Second at Barcelona. The Siliprandi team car qualifies 5th here at Spa. 63 is the Redmond Bright Pilbeam Nissan of Britain's Peter Owen and Mark Smithson. Lights winners at Monza. Smithson is managing director of Reynard Cars and they qualify 4th. Third fastest is BM Autosport Tampoli Alfa Romeo of Italians Massimo Monti and Renato Nobili. The car was leading lights at Monza when it was knocked off by Gary Famato's race-winning Riley and Scott. Trying just as hard here at Spa in qualifying. Second fastest in lights goes to the factory Lucchini Alfa Romeo of Italian Salvatore Ronca and Filippo Franchioni. Second in Monza behind the Owen Smithson Pilbeam. But of all the lights drivers, the man who perhaps knows Spa best is South African Werner Loopberger. He raced here in his Formula 3000 days and he sets a series of blistering quick laps in the other Redmond Bright Pilbeam. The 69 car shared with Britain's Owen Mildenhall. He takes a lights pole. It's Loopberger's and constructor Mike Pilbeam's third in the 3 races. We talked to Loopberger after qualifying.
Okay, Werner Loopberger, driver with the Redmond and Bright Pilbeam, that was a fantastic lap. The second quicker than anyone else. Do you have a secret for Spa? You've been quicker all weekend.
Oh, this is my so it helps obviously a lot, you know, brings up the confidence on the circuit. As you know, Eau Rouge is one of the quickest corners in World Cup racing, so I love that corner. So and also the corner before the bus stop chicane is also a really quick corner, so I just love these quick corners. It's just, for me, my favourite.
Well, in the break before sports racing qualifying, the rains arrive. What would Spa be without water? The SR1 category has more power but more weight and a $640,000 price cap. Engines limited to 6-litre naturally aspirated or 4-litre turbocharged. John Nielsen just loves the wet and is throwing the Dave Price racing run Dembla Arvis Panel Spider around the Belgian track. Long-time race leader at Monza until the rain defeated his co-driver Torkild Turing, the Great Dane is fighting oversteer and is disappointed with his 5th fastest time. Front-engined retro roadster. Well, the Motorola Dams Cadillac team continues its Sports Racing World Cup campaign just a week after the American Le Mans Series race at Silverstone, and local boy Mark Hoesens is quicker than Eric Bernard and Emmanuel Collard in the sister car. Hoesens is on pole for much of the session, but ends 4th fastest as the rain eases and a dry line starts to appear. He co-drives, as always, with France's Christophe Pinceau. Cadillac are now gearing up for the Le Mans 24 Hours. Along with the Nürburgring, Spa is regarded by Cologne-based Kramer Racing as its home circuit, and it's happy to see its Lola Roush-Ford post 3rd fastest in the hands of another local driver, former motorcycle champion and BMW factory sports car man Didier de Radigues. The Louvain driver won the 1997 Spa 24 Hours here and is sharing the beautiful Lola with the Christians, Briton Christian Van and German Christian Glezel. Well, as the track dries out, a last-minute shootout develops between this year's 2 race-winning cars. Here's the R&M Starlight Riley and Scott of Maribaldi. Judd B10 power. Italian Baldi, winner of this race last year with the JB Chiesa Ferrari squad, and winner at Monza this year with his own Riley and Scott shared with South African Gary Famato, is the first man to choose Goodyear slicks. And the pole looks secure with a 2-minute 11.76 second time. But this year's other winner, the JMB Gaser Ferrari of David Tarian, has other ideas. He puts Pirelli slicks on the #1 Barcelona winning Ferrari 333 SP and goes for it. Well, the car's been rebuilt overnight with parts flown in from Paris after his Italian co-driver Christian Pescatori aquaplaned and heavily crashed at Le Combe. His only injury, a bitten tongue. Tarian shows the form that gave him the 1993 World Karting and 1996 French Formula Ford Championships and puts the red and green Ferrari V12 on pole by just 0.15 of a second. David told us how it went after qualifying.
David Tarian just grabbed pole position here. A superb lap in the JMB Gaser Ferrari. How was it for you, David?
It was okay, but at the beginning we didn't know which choice to do, and we had planned, a rain session, so we had a rain setup, and it was not so easy to drive. But we began with the wet tires, medium tires, and it was completely slick except from in the front of the pit. So we had to change quite quick, and we did it, and we changed again tires a third time in the end, and the car was really competitive, but the track was coming quicker and quicker, so we had to keep the pressure and to push hard and harder. And on the last lap I overtook a guy with a Ferrari, but it was okay to make the pole position. I had a very, very big pleasure to drive there in Spa with a Ferrari, because the car is very competitive and it's very nice to drive on that circuit.
So we're starting grid for round 3 of the series. Tarian and Baldi, Gaser Ferrari and Iron Riley and Scott. It's becoming a Ferrari-McLaren battle. Rodriguez, Hosen, Nielsen, Zadra, Lavaggi, Bernard, Calderari, Van der Lof completing the SR1 runners, and Lights pole going to Mildenhall, and Lutberger starting with the front row of Lights of Francioni, Ronca alongside Lucchini. So 25 cars here, great turnout for the series. Sunday morning, and after a dry warm-up, Sunday turns wet as the field lines up for the start of the race. Well, there's a problem already for the R&M Riley and Scott team, last year's Target 24 squad, as the front row car refuses to fire up again after completing its warm-up lap. Maribaldi abandons ship. The car's pushed to one side, and the safety car leads the field off on its rolling lap, minus Baldi's car. Ahead of them, 2 hours 30 minutes of racing on the 6.9 kilometer Belgian circuit, the longest track of the year outside Le Mans. Start will be taken on the downhill section past the old pits, but they're using the new Formula One pits. Well, the wrecker truck arrives for that Riley and Scott. Engine failure has now been diagnosed, all the more surprising as it was a brand new unit overnight. Well, the rolling lap continues with the second one, so bad a condition. Baldi, winner here last year, watches disconsolately as his car's towed away, his 2000 championship hopes fading on the end of a rope. Well, the rain has worsened as the rest of the field continues its rolling laps. How are the cards going to fall if this continues, with the top 5 on the grid covered by just 0.7 of a second in qualifying, the closest this year? Will the JMB Gaser Ferrari squad reassert itself at the top of the table? Or can Chrome Malola or Dembla Arvis Paynol's teams, both of them wet weather experts, pull off a famous victory this afternoon? Spa can bite in these conditions, and don't discount the Lights runners from featuring at the front end of the field if conditions don't improve. Stranger things have happened at Spa-Francorchamps. Here on Eurosport, you join me, Mark Cole, looking at the Royal Union Classic 2000 as the pace car pulls off in the third round of the Sports Racing World Cup. gets underway in dreadful weather here at Spa. Angelo Lancilotti heading for the pits there with continuing starter motor problems in the new Conrera. Riley and Scott, they won't be starting. So Daviterian leading the pack from Didier Rodriguez and Mark Goossens. The start's taken. Sweeping down the hill through La Source. Eau Rouge. And in worsening conditions at the top of the hill, Didier Rodriguez is looking to take the lead at Le Combe. Indeed, as the spray gets even into our cameras, through he goes. And Goossens now attacking to try and get second place from the Ferrari at Rivage as they race down the mountainside. He's tucked right underneath in the Cadillac. Through he goes, the Cadillac passing the Ferrari. This is the first time this year a Cadillac has bested the JMB Gieser squad. Meanwhile, Peroni and Lights poleman Lutberger are right at the back of the field after pitting on the rolling lap with water in their electrics. Mark Smithson in the Redmond Bright Pilbeam and Mark Rostan in the Bruno, the new Bruno Debra, battling for the lights lead at the moment. But here's the Rodriguez. He's leading in the Kramer Lola. First time into the bus stop. From Goossens in the Cadillac, Daviterian there in the Ferrari. Then it's John Nielsen coming out of the spray in the Paynors, Marco Zadra in the BMS Scuderia Italia Ferrari, and Gianni Lavaggi in the GLV Brooms Ferrari. There it is, the Brooms car with Bernard in the other Cadillac, tucked right underneath his rear wing. Oh, problem in the background. Zadra spins into the rails. Oh, puts the BMS Scuderia Ferrari heavily backwards off the track, damaging the rear wing. He's only got half of it there hanging on. Down the hill goes our race leader. Struggles around the lap. Well, Light poleman Lutberger's rejoined in the Redmond Bright Pilbeam after a long spark plug change in his lap by the race leader and by the second. Well, this rain is continuing to cause problems for everybody, and not just visibility ones. Eric Bernard has got a problem in the motor. Ground electric. Nielsen loves these conditions, so does Lavaggi, who had his big win at Manicourt last year in the wet. There is Bernard. Look at the rain bouncing off the pit lane there. They sort the problem out, get him back into the race. Zadra, meanwhile, retires the BMS Ferrari with too much damage to continue. He's already had an early shower, so he'll take an early break now. Well, Goossens, 3 times an FIA Formula 3000 winner, but never an international winner at Spa, is reveling in the conditions on his home circuit. And he is chasing his fellow Belgian Didier Rodriguez. At the top of the hill, the lights battle lead has changed. It's now between Filippo Franchioni in the 60 car and Massimo Monti there. Everyone piling in behind. You can see absolutely nothing in these conditions. Richard Forays in the Mark Bailey Rover at the bus stop. Oh, Forays spins. He was last seen in the SportsRacing World Cup at Donington Park last year, and he was involved in a heavy qualifying crash. He gets the car reversed, gets it stuck on the curb, and he is going nowhere. That is going to bring out the safety car this early in the race. Yes, indeed, the yellows are out. A full course yellow here at Spa. Safety car sign is out. And Eric Bernard, who's now a lap down on the leaders after his pit stop, is picked up by the safety car. Well, the race order at this moment then, it's the Rodriguez for the Kramer team from Goossens in the number 12 Cadillac. Daviterian in third, Lavaggi in fourth. Following the safety car in conditions that are getting, if anything, worse. Reminiscent of the Belgian Grand Prix 2 years ago. Well, Lavaggi and Bernard both peel off into the pit lane. Still having problems with those cars. Bernard still with that misfire. Lavaggi also water in the electrics. Safety car then still out on the Spa circuit. A scene we've seen so many times here on the beautiful Belgian track. It's not so beautiful today though. Everyone just really wants this race to be over. Well, de Radigues decides it's a good time to pit. So does Terrien. So they go in while the safety car's still out. But of course the Belgian is still going to lead the race as Mark Goossens takes control of the pack. JMB Geyser squad looking to put fresh wets on the car. Quick refueling. Safety car prepares to pull off. The lights are off and the race will be on again. So for the first time, a Cadillac leads an international sports car race. John Nielsen behind now. But problems for Peroni we saw there in the Spa-Francorchamps Lucchini. He had a lot of debris caught under the nose of his car. There it is indeed as the field prepares to lap him. That's slowing him down a little bit. Nielsen, nearly coming together. One of the lights there, the light car's right up now with them. The yellows are still out. They go in and the race is back on. Peroni can't be passed until they cross that point, the start-finish line. Up the hill, Mark Goossens looks for a clear patch and gets the power down. So incredible racing here, the lights mixing it with the SR1, so bad are the conditions, a real embarrassment of power for the bigger cars, the 3-litre Alfa Romeo and BMW engine cars, showing that they can keep up with the big brothers here in these type of conditions. Nielsen second now behind Goossens, but unbelievably that 66 lights right behind him, the Auditio and Benvenuto Lucchini, Roberto Tonetto is challenging for overall position. This man wants second place. Behind Terrien, carving through the field after his pit stop. De Radigues passes Massimo Monti for 6th overall. Oh dear, Lavaggi is off at the top of the mountain. He's blown his Ferrari's engine at Le Combe, and the 1999 Manicourt winners race is over. Goossens though is the star of the moment, passing Lavaggi's stricken GLV Brooms car. Cadillac still leading here at Spa. Boding very well for Le Mans if that's wet this year. 4 factory Cadillacs to be racing there, the 2 Dams Motorola cars and the 2 North Star cars. Oh, Mario Prospero pulls off also at Le Combe in the Picchio. His gearbox has failed him. Well, further back, Eric Bernard is trying to unlap himself from Nielsen's Paynors. Nielsen hasn't stopped yet, of course. Both cars incredibly twitchy here, but look at Bernard. His wets are fresher, and he comes up the inside at La Source. He's going to try and get back a lap on the Paynors. Bernard's running in something like 18th place at the moment. David Terrien is about to take 9th place away from the SCI Lucchini, which is being debuted by Ranieri Randaccio. De Radigues in 3rd place after his pit stop at La Source, and Nielsen 2nd as race leader. Didier De Radigues comes up to lap Tonetti. A newcomer to the series, Portugal's Bernardo Sannogueira, Pedro Lima's manager. He's running 6th in the lights division at the moment. With De Radigues. And Goossens into the pits. The race leader finally hands it over. That's de Radigues leading, or not. No, John Nielsen moves the Paynolds into the lead. He's got a half lap to cover before they come round again. Mark Roston there through the bus stop. Meanwhile, Forays spins at the bus stop yet again. Not having a good race in the MBR Rover. And Mark Goossens after his pit stop. His race ends. He's put the Cadillac into the barriers at Rivage. And on the same lap, Eric Bernard does the same thing at Pouhon. Both Cadillacs are out to the dismay of the Dams team. Radigues is out again. And John Nielsen has just kept the lead from him. The Le Mans and Daytona 24 Hours winner fighting now for the lead, but only up until La Source, where the Belgian goes back out in front again. And it's de Radigues leading Spa once again in the Kramer Lola. And incredibly, only 4 of the 11 SR1 starters are still running. Such has been the attrition here at Spa-Francorchamps. So after 1 hour of racing, 19 laps have been completed. It's de Radigues leading from this man, John Nielsen, from David Terrien in the Ferrari, and from Enzo Calderari in the BMS Scuderia Italia. That's the only 4 SR1 R1 runners. In lights, it's Raimondi at the moment during pit stops, from Monti, from Mercier, from Smithson, and from Francione. Join us after the break. We are back at Spa-Francorchamps. Terrible weather conditions here as Didier de Radigues of Belgium continues to dominate his home race, the 3rd round of the Sports Racing World Cup at Spa-Francorchamps, leading for Kramer Lola. In 2nd place, John Nielsen for Paynolds. And in 3rd place, David Terrien in the number 1 JMB Giesa Ferrari, 2 years running the championship winning car. Back in lights, Fabian Peroni in the 51 car at the moment, leading from the blue Lucchini of Filippo Francione. Once again, after the round of pit stops, the car's 5th and 6th overall. Conditions playing right into the hands of the less powerful 2nd division cars. Well, John Nielsen finally takes the 2nd place Denbla Avis Panos into the pits. He'll stay on board as the Dave Price Racing team refuels him. The same team which ran his West McLaren in VPR GT Championship days. Radigues still leading. And then Mark Smithson caught by Francione for light 3rd. But then suddenly, like Goossens and Bernard earlier, John Nielsen slides off, going down the mountain. Goes off at Rivage, lightly hitting the abandoned Cadillac. The Dane blames oil as he walks away disgusted. Well, that, of course, elevates Terrien to 2nd place. Now one of only 3 SR1 cars left, and that before half distance. Massimo Monti leading lights for Tampoli, and he's now up to 3rd overall ahead of the Calderari BMS Scuderia Italia Ferrari. For more problems, out comes the safety car for a 2nd time as Nielsen's Paynolds is recovered, picking up leader de Radigues in the Kramer Lola. In the pits, the JMB team is ready for Terrien. And there's Enzo Calderari in 4th place in the BMS Ferrari. Bearing some light damage at the back after he says he was run into during one of the pace car situations. Pesca warms up in the pit lane, ready for his shift, and suddenly both De Radigues and Terrien are coming into the pits together. Identical team tactics from the front runners. Most of the crew is by now thoroughly wet and miserable. Terrien pits first, he's further down pit lane. He gets out, Christian Pescatori gets in. The safety car leaves the much reduced field now through Eau Rouge. Pescatori manages to beat Christian Van out of the pits. Christian Van taking over the Cremalola. Out they come as in comes Calderari. He'll hand over to Lilian Brunner, his long-time sports car racing partner. Together they won the 1995 BPR GT2 title. And that's when Calderari reveals he was rammed from behind by another Ferrari, giving him handling problems. The green flag, and racing resumes for the third time. Pescatori now leading from another Christian Van of Britain. And there indeed is Van, fighting with Monti and Franchioni for second place overall. Two lights unprecedentedly in battle against the Cremalola. Six litres of Roush Ford NASCAR engine there, almost an embarrassment of power for Christian Van. Plunging down into Eau Rouge, he's starting to get up to speed now after joining the race. But suddenly he slows. Oh, Monti's gone through into second overall. And he's followed by Franchioni. Monti sliding that car. And indeed Franchioni has passed Monti for second place. What's happened? It sounds from the radio message that Van has lost a wheel nut and he's got a loose front wheel which is now jammed in the wheel arch. He's struggling to get back round. There's Martin Henderson, Nicky Blum fighting out fifth in lights. But look at Lilian Brunner coming up behind now in the Ferrari. She's trying to get past him through the bus stop. And on the run up to La Source, she comes scything through the lights. Well, Christian Van finally makes the pits for attention to that loose front wheel. It's only the second race for the youngster with Kramer. He was the FIA GT Privateer champion with Chamberlain Viper last year. Had his first race in this car just a week ago at the American Le Mans Series at Silverstone. Now he's in the Sports Racing World Cup for the rest of the season with this top-notch team. Well, out on the track, Franchioni's Lucchini Lights is now lapping faster than race leader Pescatori. Still in second overall as the rain eases off. Great performance by what is one of Italy's smallest racing car constructors. Christian Van rejoins, but Kramer's chances of victory are now looking remote. Well, the fight for the other light podium places continue between Henderson, Peter Owen in the 63 car there, and Swede Nicky Blum right behind in the Monza. Owen in the Monza winning Redman Bright Pilbeam. Well, Michel Ligenet, Sampoli is attacked by Lutberger. He's on a comeback drive after his earlier spark plug problems. Ligenet holding him off for the moment. The two surviving Lucchini's running together, but Franchioni's a lap ahead of the Sacamano Tonetti car, the white one here. Well, Christian Van is now on a charge on the drying track. And he sets the fastest lap so far at 2 minutes, 34.7. Quicker than the JB Gaeta Ferrari. What a great drive by the 25-year-old Brit. Well, Blum is again on Martin Henderson's tail and fighting right throughout the field. Race every bit as thrilling as the nearby Grand Prix of Europe being run in similar conditions. Christian Pescatori still leading for JMB Gator Ferrari with almost 2 minutes now over the second place Franchioni, Lucchini, and the fourth place BMS car of Lilian Brinner, which becomes third as Massimo Monti heads for the pit lane to finally hand over the BM Autosport Tampoli to Renato Mobili. Racing down into La Source, Michel Ligonet. Oh, he gives Luke Berger the chop there in Eau Rouge. Monsieur Chamonix does not take prisoners. Well, problems, as you can hear, still for some cars. This is fifth place, Roberto Tonetti making his final stop, handing over to Massimo Sacamano, but misfiring as he comes in. Pescatori then still leading, as Ligonet makes his pit stop from the factory Tampoli Alfa Romeo, handing over to Fabian Peroni. Nibali and Van are now fighting for fourth place overall, such is the way this race has fallen. Van has a look at La Source. This is where he can use his power, going up through Radillon. And then up the long climb to Le Combe, and it's a battle which he wins. Takes that fourth place away and continues his drive around the circuit. But just look at the oil slicks on that track as they go down the hill. That's part of the conditions they've got to cope with, something that caught Big John Nielsen out earlier. The Pescatori is still leading at the bus stop, with victory looking assured as the track dries out further. In third place, Van is still on that charge. He's about to lap Martin Henderson's Barcelona winning Pilbeam, the British driver, one of the stars of last year's series and well on course for this year's title. Through goes the Kramer Lola, Henderson giving him plenty of space. But Franchioni has a big gap over Brino in second place, although both will be handing over to fresh drivers very soon. So too Van, who's one of three drivers in this car, he'll be handing the fourth place Lola over to Christian Glazel. The Sacamano and Peroni are both lapped by Brunner. Lilian sliding that Ferrari 600 brake horsepower from the Formula One developed V12. Big handful in these conditions, which is part of the reason the lights have been so good. They're so nimble, less of embarrassment of power. But it's almost unthinkable, surely, that a lights car could win this race. Pescatori again, surely a second 2000 win for the likeable Italian, who's made a name for himself in sports car racing after some fine drives last year for BMS Scuderia Italia. Drives which almost gave him the title after an incredible win at Enna. And this year, of course, he's joined the team against which he fought the whole of last year. Pescatori and Terrien forced to be reckoned with this year. Next round of pit stops coming up quite quickly now, as Van laps Nicky Blom, outbrake him into the bus stop. And lights leader Franchioni comes up to lap Monza winner Peter Owen. 1 hour 50 minutes completed, 38 laps behind them, and the standings, Christian Pescatori leading from Lilian Brinner. She's still in the car, and Christian Van. No other runners in that category. And in the lights, Franchioni in the car at the moment from Nibali, Sacamano, Pierre Bruneau and Martin Henderson. Join us after the break. Welcome back to Eurosport. Welcome back to Spa-Francorchamps with 40 minutes still to run this extraordinary third round of the Sports Racing World Cup. These just 3 SR1 cars left, fighting off the smaller lights after dreadful conditions that swept through the Ardennes mountains of Belgium. Here's Christian Pescatore continuing to lead for J&B Gaser Ferrari, but all the time, the lights, the 3-litre cars are closing in. Headed by the number 60 factory Lucchini Alfa Romeo, Filippo Franchioni, who's about to make his final stop to hand over to Salvatore Ronca. Behind him, Lilian Brinner's coming into the pits to hand over to Angelo Zadra. The car is currently third overall. Zadra, father of Marco Zadra, who we saw crashing the other BMS Scuderia Ferrari at the beginning of the race. Ronca rejoins after a super efficient Italian pit stop, keeping second place overall and the lights lead, of course. All important for those championship points. The J&B team is expecting Pesca, who will stay on board. Refueling. No tyres are ready, so they're presumably happy with what he's got on the car. As Christian Van finally comes in to hand over the fourth place Kramer Lola to Christian Glezal. What a good job by the rookie here at Spa. A daunting prospect in a big engine car in dreadful track conditions. Well, number one still in the pits, but he's got no worries. Pescatore's got time in hand as he comes out of the pit lane, back into the race, and it's all looking good for win number 2 this year. Christian Glezal all leaves the pits. But for that loose wheel nut, Kramer could now be leading. He's 5th at the moment behind Sacamano's Lucchini. Pierre Bruneau brings the new Deborah BMW into the pits, 3rd in lights. Car he's been showing at Mark Rostam. There's problems you can hear for the MBR Rover bumbling by Britain's Richard Forays and Simon Harris. Oh, then suddenly we got problems for Pescatore. The car has slowed as he comes out of La Source down to Eau Rouge. Pesca is crawling around the circuit. He's trying to get back to the pits. He's radioed in, he's got a broken differential, and his lead is evaporating. Oh, it's all gone pear-shaped for the Gaser Ferrari team. It's being passed all around the circuit by all the lights. Can he make it back to the pits? This is all playing into the hands, of course, of the light leaders. There's the J&B team and David Terrian there, anxiously watching for their Italian driver. Well, he finally makes it back to the pits, that long pit road, bypassing the bus stop. And of course, all this means that the number 60 Lucchini of Ronca is about to sweep into the lead of the race at Spa. Look at that, just frustration from the mechanics. Off comes the engine cover, but they know there's nothing they can do about it. Without the differential, he's got a traction problem. Here comes Ronca, about to take the lead. Overall, at Spa-Francorchamps, back on goes the engine cover. They've worked on the transmission, there's nothing they can do. They've told him to get out on the track and try to make the finish of this race of attrition. And there it says it all, just shakes his head. He's going to have to cope with wet conditions and just get that car to the finish. So Ronca has now got a 20-second lead with just 16 minutes of the race to go. Look at this, what an incredible finale to this round 3 of the Sports Racing World Cup. And the fight is on because that puts the second place car now, the BMS Scuderia Italia Ferrari of Angelo Zadra. That car's lapping 2 seconds a lap quicker, and it's going to be a close finish. Well, a problem here for Nibali. He's been off in the BM Tampoli, had a hefty trip into the scenery, a lot of body damage there, flapping around. Late casualty, but Ronca has all eyes on him in the little blue Lucchini Alfa Romeo, 3-litre Alfa Romeo, normally aspirated. Around about 400 brake horsepower up against the 600 horsepower of the other cars. Here is the other car, the second place car of the experienced Zadra, now 50 and GT2 winner in the 1998 Daytona 24 Hours, with Calderari and Brunner bouncing the Ferrari over those bus stop curbs. Can he do it? The chase is continuing. Can Ronca hold off that Ferrari of Zadra in these final laps? What an incredible finale. This is sprint racing, not sports car racing. Here is the Ferrari indeed, and he's closing, as we said, 2 seconds a lap on the car in front with just a couple of laps to go now. Pescatore is still circulating, but very, very slowly. And the whole pack comes up behind him, including Ronca there in the blue Lucchini. They've got to thread their way through. Just don't throw it all away, Ronca. This is the big moment. He may be holding you up, but it's better than being off the circuit. No, he's not going to wait. He tries to go through impatient. Oh, Pescatore nearly shuts the door on him. Through goes the race leader. And right behind them now is the Ferrari. He's coming up behind. Here we are, into La Source. Well, this is quite incredible. Pescatore is still creeping around the circuit. He's looking for at least to make the finish. It's 5th place at the moment. And there is the gap now. There is Angelo Zadra in that Ferrari. Well, Sacamano has been running in 3rd overall, but he has to make a late splash and dash, and that hands 3rd place to Glazel's Kramer Lola, which has just set the fastest lap of the race. Sacamano rejoins. There's Glazel, still the fastest man on the circuit. But can that leading 3-litre Lucchini hold out? There it is. We ask Filippo Franchione, who's waiting on the pit wall.
The car is good, the engine is perfect, and I hope that Ronca now winning the race.
Well, so does everyone else, I think, here, but Zadra's got other ideas in the 4-litre Ferrari. He's now close to it, 8 seconds. Oh, the BMS team's glued to its monitors, Lillian included. She's done her work this afternoon. There's nothing more she can do. It's all down to Zadra. And Ronca starts that final lap now. The lead just down to 6 seconds. There's Ronca, and right behind comes the Ferrari. This is going to be so close. There it is. Well, one more lap to go. Ronca starts that final lap. The smallest constructor in Italy with Alfa Romeo power. Here's the 2nd place man. He's got that long run up the hill on a drying track, and this is where he can gain the advantage of his V12 power. Down the hill, there's the gap, the blue Lucchini, the red Ferrari, and it's closing every moment on this beautiful Spa-Francorchamps circuit. Down the hill they plunge and through, up to La Source for the last time. They've just got to go a few hundred meters. Can Zadra do it? Papa Zadra makes a charge. He can't quite get in there. And Ronca and Franchione take a historic World Cup win at Spa by just 2.1 seconds after 2 hours and 31 minutes of racing. Well, what an incredible finish, as almost unnoticed, Christian Glazel brings home the 6-litre Kramer Lola in 3rd overall and 2nd in SR1. To the BMS Ferrari among just 11 finishers of this unbelievable Enduro. Well, what a result. In the first time in history, it's a lights car that sweeps the board here in the Sports Racing World Cup. That wasn't in the grand plan, but it's happened, and that's given a target for all the big boys now to aim for. Well, look at all those DNF did not finish. Cars in the gravel, cars with failed engines, and just 3 finishers in SR1 as we talk to Lillian Brunner about her 2nd place.
Okay, 2nd place finishers here at Spa, Lillian Brunner and Enzo Calderari. That was an amazing finish. Did you think Angelo was going to nip the lead there?
It was really close the end, so if we would have 1 lap more, we could win the race, but it was a nice race. It was very difficult in the wet condition, and the track was really flooded, so we are happy that we could finish this race without problem.
Well, what a finish, and of course everyone in SR1 is a winner this weekend on the podium. So quite incredible, that race. Seeing the BMS team winning from Kramer, from Gaeta Ferrari in the SR1 division. There's the points then. Pescatori and Terren 47 points. Just managed to keep ahead of Calderari, Brunner and Zadra. And the lights results. There they are. And what a great battle that was, plus that overall finish. We talked to second place man Roberto Tonetti.
Roberto Tonetti and Massimo Sacamano, second in the lights category, and Lucchini had a great day today with the 1-2, and it seemed like the lights cars were the best thing to have on these conditions.
Actually, yes, in this wet race, which was especially when it was pouring down rain, we were faster. Actually, I had a very good start. I was first overall at the end of my session. The second session, my co-pilot was not very much accustomed to the circuit, which is actually very tricky. So we actually lost a little bit, but then I catch up. I'm very happy actually, because we were very fast, consistent, and the car was running smooth. Everything went all right.
So there they go on the lights podium, and what a fine finish. Ronca and Franchioni on the top of the podium from Tonetti and Sacamano, with Pierre Bruneau and Marc Rostan in their brand new Deborah BMW there, and the red overalls finishing in third place. Well, the driver points in lights, Ronca and Franchioni 35 from Owen Smithson 30, and Martin Henderson 5th with 28. The champagne sprays as if they weren't wet enough already. Well, next race in the Sports Racing World Cup, June the 30th, as a break until after Le Mans 24 hours, but then they go to Daytona, back in the USA, for one of their fly-away races. Eurosport, of course, as always, will be there. From me, Mark Cole, goodbye.